Okay, let's talk about turning that next great idea of yours into an actual, real thing. In this explainer, we're going to give you a super simple but really powerful framework to get you from that initial spark of inspiration all the way to a finished project without all the usual stress.
You know that feeling, right? You have this amazing idea for a workshop or maybe a community event. Everybody's super excited about it in the beginning, but then somewhere along the way, poof, it just kind of fizzles out. So what's really going on there?
Well, these are the classic symptoms. Tasks that get mentioned in a meeting but never actually get written down. Deadlines that seem ages away and then suddenly, whoosh, they've flown right by. And of course, team members are left kind of looking at each other going, wait, what was I supposed to be doing again? It's a total recipe for chaos.
But look, this chaos, it isn't just bad luck. It actually has a very specific cause. There's this hidden problem that plagues pretty much every project that fails to get off the ground. The problem is something we call invisible work. It's all that crucial stuff, the tasks, the decisions, the little bits of progress that are just floating around, in people's heads, buried in email chains, or jotted down in some random meeting notes. And here's the thing, if you can't see the work, you just can't manage it, period. It gets forgotten, it gets duplicated, and ultimately, it's what leads to failure.
But what if I told you the solution was as simple as, well, as simple as flipping on a light switch? What if you could take all of that invisible work and in an instant, make it completely visible to the entire team? So here it is, the absolute core of it all. Get every single task out of people's heads and onto one single shared space. When you do this, you're not just organizing tasks, you are literally creating a shared brain for your team. It becomes the one source of truth that kills confusion, boosts morale, and just skyrockets your chances of success. And the tool we're going to use to do this is called the Kanban method. It's this brilliantly simple visual system. It actually came from Toyota, who used it to streamline their manufacturing process. But trust me, it works perfectly for managing just about any project you can think of. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's actually in this toolkit? You're going to love how simple this is. Your entire system, it just comes down to three basic things. First, you've got the board. Think of this as your whole project, all in one view. Then, on that board, you have lists. These are just columns that show the different stages of your work. The classic ones are to do, in progress, and done. And finally, you have cards. Each card represents one single task. That's the whole shebang. Simple, right? But listen, the real magic of Kanban, it's all about making really good cards. A perfect card has 5 key things. First, a clear, actionable title. It needs to start with a verb, so not just marketing, but design the event flyer. See the difference? Second, a single owner. One person is responsible. Third, a clear deadline. It creates urgency. Fourth, a checklist for any smaller subtasks. And fifth, a spot for all the relevant files and links. This turns a simple card into a tiny command center for that one piece of work. All right, you ready to get your hands dirty? Let's actually build your very first board. And seriously, it is way easier than it sounds. It's just 4 steps. That's it. First, pick your project. Blueprint for our next youth workshop, whatever it is. Second, create those 3 basic lists. To do, in progress, done. Third, grab your team for a quick 15-minute brainstorm and just dump every single task you can think of onto a card in that to-do column. And finally, step 4, go through each of those cards and add the 5 key details we just talked about. And just like that, your board is ready for action. So, that's the how-to, but let's see what this actually looks like out in the wild. And, maybe even more important, let's talk about how to avoid some of the common traps that people fall into. So let's imagine this organization. We'll call them green shoots. They're using a Kanban board, maybe on a simple tool like Trello or something, to plan a big community event, their tree planting day. Now this is what a great card looks like in action. The title is in action, Secure Park Permit. The owner is Alex. The deadline is crystal clear. The checklist breaks down exactly what he needs to do, and there's even a direct link to the application form. Everything Alex needs to get this done is right there on that one card. No guesswork. And this is where you really see the payoff. During their weekly meetings, the Green Shoots team doesn't have to ask, "So, what's everyone working on?" Nope, they just pull up the board. The board is the conversation. It focuses everyone on what's in progress, what might be stuck, and what's coming up next. This completely changes the game for meetings. They go from being these vague, boring updates to actual, productive problem-solving sessions.
Now, of course, like any tool, you can use it the wrong way. So to make sure your board stays a powerful asset and doesn't just become another source of confusion, let's cover 3 of the biggest pitfalls and how to avoid them. First up, the overly complex board. You know, that temptation to create a dozen different columns for every little micro step. Don't do it. The entire goal here is clarity, not complexity. So start with the basic 3 lists and only add more if you have a really good reason. Keep it to 5, absolute max. Next big mistake, the vague card. A card that just says something like marketing is totally useless. I mean, what does that even mean? Who can own that? Break those big, fuzzy ideas down into small, specific, actionable tasks that one person can actually be responsible for. And finally, maybe the most critical pitfall of all, the graveyard board. You know, the one that's filled with old, outdated tasks and just gets ignored. The fix is so simple, though. You have to make it a living, breathing document. And the easiest way to do that is to build a habit. Start every single team meeting with a quick 5-minute review of the board. That one habit is the key to keeping it relevant and keeping everyone accountable. So, there you have it. The power is literally in your hands now. You've got the framework to take that next brilliant idea and actually turn it into a successful, completed project. So the only question left is, what's that first piece of invisible work you're going to bring into the light? What's the first card you're going to create?